Hey friends, I have been away for a little bit of time because I was on timeout. I realized I uploaded a video that I wasn't supposed to upload. So in my Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie series, I forgot to upload Americanah, which is supposed to be the second last book that I reviewed from the series. So I'm back here to do it now because I found out after a while. I was like, oh my goodness. And I had recorded the video, but now I had to just redo it for the purpose of explaining myself. So I hope you guys will stick around for this one, and please do enjoy. So Americanah is essentially an immigrant story of Ifemelu, who is the main character, who goes to America to study. She lives in different parts of America: Philadelphia, New York, I think there's Baltimore. There's just a number of Princeton and New Jersey. There's just a number of places that the book takes place in, and Ifemelu is essentially going through the most when she gets to America. So amongst the things that she realizes when she gets into the country is the fact that she's in fact black. And not only is she black, is that she's a non-black, she's a non-American black, and that comes with a very specific and very particular experience, which I think she in the book she talks about quite a lot. And the overarching thing for me, besides all the serious other stuff, I think is the love that sort of endures over time, over space, and all of these moments that happen in the characters. So Ifemelu has a love interest, Obinze, who they were childhood lovers in Nigeria, and then obviously Ifemelu goes to America, and Obinze stays in Nigeria for some time, and then he moves to Europe, where he also goes to find a better life for himself. And eventually at the end they sort of come together, because Ifemelu, we know in the beginning that Ifemelu is back in Nigeria. So when she is back in Nigeria, they sort of try to rekindle things. And I think in the way that is portrayed is very realistic, in the sense that we know that things are not going to be easy because a lot has happened, but they manage to sort of find their ways back to each other. Other very interesting themes that I think you might be interested in are race, identity politics through hair, environment, so where she stays, there's different things that she experiences, different culture shocks. So Ifemelu as the main character for me was very interesting, and I loved her a lot. I love characters that are female, that are strong, that are bold, that aren't afraid to say what they want to say, and I think Ifemelu embodied that in a number of ways. I think that her character wasn't naive, but she did a lot of self-introspection as she moves along in the story. So Ifemelu has a blog, which is where she sort of we get into the psyche of how she thinks and how she's experiencing the world around her. And most of these blog posts are about hair and race. And it's an anonymous, I think it's an anonymous blog. She has a blog post, whether it's anonymous or not anonymous, you'll have to find out for yourself when you read the book, and maybe you can drop down a comment and let me know what you think about those blog posts, because there she drops some gems, she drops some knowledge. We get to see her in a way that is also interesting, because she says some really irresponsible things at times, and then she goes and checks herself. So with time she'll rectify some of those thoughts, those things that she said, because I also think what that blog post does, or what the book does, is to say that there is no one way of viewing things, right? And there is no set in stone right or wrong about dealing with issues of hair, for instance, dealing with issues of gender, dealing with things of race. So we are all learning and we're all human beings, and there is room. We should always allow ourselves to have room for error in a sense, but also be willing to learn, be willing to be accountable, be willing to acknowledge whatever position you're in, which is, it might be in some instances a place of privilege. What an Americanah is, according to the book and Chimamanda, is somebody who goes to America and adopts all these cultural etiquettes and morals and this and that, and then they go back to their country, in the case here, which is Nigeria, and they sort of try to adapt those cultures into their homeland. Now, before I go and close off this series, is something that I want to share with you guys, which I've noticed and has made me think a little bit deeper about just everything in general. So every time I go to a bookstore or a library, which is possibly my favorite place in the world, I always find a Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie book. And now I've made it a point where every time I go to these places, I want to go see if they have a book by her. And I always find it. It's her, always her, and also Chinua Achebe. And what I want to mention is that libraries and bookstores, especially bookstores are terrible. Bookstores never have African literature. Like, it's a myth. But they always have Chimamanda. But libraries are slightly better. They would have a little bit of a range in terms of, you know, these kinds of narratives. And anyway, I say this to say that I think she is just good. She's good. The fact that you're able to find her like that. And I think now, having read all of her work, I kind of get why she's everywhere. And it's something to be happy about, and it's something to celebrate. Anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and see you next time. Bye!